Welcome to Teller Time, where the lights twinkle against snowy peaks. Main Street is aglow with an awesome lighting display, courtesy of the city of Woodland Park, and the store windows are dedicated to the nines. This is Thom and Charlie coming to you from the Pikes Peak Community Center, located at the corner of 24 and 67. And remember, as always, we're sponsored by the Ute Pass Historical Society, which is a nonprofit organization here in Woodland Park, Colorado. And they're dedicated to preserving and sharing the history of the Ute Pass region, including Native American heritage, pioneer life, and the development of local communities. They're located at the Ute Pass History Park on 231 East Henrietta Avenue, or you can call their main number at 719-492-3986 for more information. And this month, we're celebrating the season of giving, from food drives to toy and clothing drives, and even animal shelters are on the receiving end of all the acts of kindness that ripple across Teller County. Remember, even a smile can be a gift. So pour the cocoa, gather close, and let's celebrate the season, whatever you celebrate. This is Teller Time, and it starts now. Let's welcome our first guest, Jason Ledlie, to Teller Time. He's a licensed professional counselor here in Woodland Park. He's known for guiding people through life's toughest trails, whether it's adoption, trauma, or grief, and he does it with humor, heart, and a spirit of adventure. Discover resilience, discover hope, discover Jason Ledlie. Thanks for joining Charlie and myself on this chilly day in Woodland Park. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, Jason.
All right. Well, I think I'd like to start by saying I'm glad this isn't being video recorded, because I've been told I have a face for radio, so here we are. Yeah, so
we hear that a lot, so it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I think your introduction, Tom, hit most of the highlights. I'm Jason, live here in Teller County in Woodland Park. Am a licensed professional counselor. I've got a practice in Woodland Park, and it's one of the ways I found to keep myself busy.
Okay. What exactly, a counselor, what do you handle exactly, so to speak?
Sure. Well, before we moved to Teller County, we lived close to a bigger metropolitan area. And there I was part of a group practice that focused really nearly exclusively on what's called the Adoption Triad. So that's adoptees. In the case of my practice, mostly children, but occasionally adult adoptees that I would work with, adoptive families, as well as birth parents. And since moving up to Teller County, I've diversified a bit. There are clients in my practice that I guess you could say are, I'm seeing just in a more generalized counseling sort of way. But a big portion of my practice still includes adopted children and their families, or children in foster care.
Okay. So obviously, counseling, mental health seems to be the buzzword in, nowadays, and everything that we're doing with the kids and everything else. So, what can we talk about? What can we say about mental health and what you're doing? The importance of it, I guess.
Well, I certainly want to believe it's important.
Yes.
Yeah. Just in my experience in the years I've been doing this, see people that are in a range of different places, right? In terms of mental health, and I would say always the work is very rewarding, independent of where someone is when they're showing up. But sometimes it's it's people who they just need a person. Right. And really, and part of the whole idea behind therapy is that not only is the therapist their person, but they're person who's not involved in their life in other ways. And so sometimes they just need a person for a season to help them sort of clear up some muddy water. And other times they're in a really tough place and really need someone to come alongside them to help them get out of those woods, so to speak.
So it's more of a person who's non-judgmental, really doesn't know, their lifestyle. Maybe they can't, predict things or can't say things. So they just need someone. They need a sounding board. It sounds like.
Yeah, a lot of it is a type of sounding board.
Okay. Do you have a lot of kids, adults, or what is your split with your counseling? Do you deal with both?
Yeah, so I work with both populations. The split typically is about, I don't know, 70%, 30%, 70% child and adolescent, and 30% adults.
Okay. All right. Is there, again, a common factor with the kids, dealing with things? Are they dealing with stress, anger, emotions, bullying? What is their thought process?
Sure. Well, again, typically, when a child or adolescent comes into my practice, they're somewhere on that adoption triad, right? Again, most generally, they've been adopted, and so I'm working with them as a client as well as their family post-adoption. And again, it's not uncommon to have a client who, for whatever reason, right, has been placed into foster care. And typically there's a court-ordered access to therapy, right? The court says as part of this process with you being placed right under the state's care and with this foster family, the court's going to require that you engage a therapist. And so I do work with several kids in foster care. And just in my style of practice, if I'm working with that kid, I'm also working with the foster parent or parents.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's talk a little bit about a word that no one really wants to talk about. Suicide, teen suicide, suicide in general. I mean, it's something that no one likes to talk about, but it needs to be talked about in order to bring it, to the forefront and bring attention to it and let people know that it's okay to feel like that and, how to handle suicide.
Sure. Well, yeah, that certainly shows up from time to time. Actually, in every population I've worked with, right? So from pre-adolescent kids, certainly in adolescent or teen populations, and sometimes even with the adults that I work with. Tom, listening to your intro, just teeing up the fact that here we are in the Christmas season. Mm-hmm. The Christmas season, actually, statistically, you see an increase in suicidal ideation. The other thing you see an increase in is people deciding that they want a divorce. There's some actually really, I guess I would say terrible stories out there, right? Like Christmas Day comes and goes and any two people get through that, and the next day one of them drops on the other, I'm filing for divorce. So I think part of the reason, back to suicide, there are a couple predictors for the onset of suicidal ideation. And two of the biggest predictors are isolation and hopelessness. And I think for people who find themselves isolated or feeling hopeless for whatever reason, I do think when the holidays roll around, it tends to have an amplifying effect. Right? Nobody wants to be lonely ever, right. And nobody wants to be lonely, certainly at the holiday times. And I think that's why you see an increase in suicidal ideation this time of year, okay. Which really, right? I mean, you're
natural.
Your lead in, right? Because Christmas and the holidays are a wonderful time, and
overwhelming at times, for everyone.
Yeah, and for most of us, right, a time where there is a lot of excitement. But I think people who are in a place that their experience isn't the one of that excitement that most of us experience. Again, I think it amplifies part of what they might be feeling.
Okay, going out on a limb with this question, how do you feel the schools are able to deal with someone suicidal, or do they, are they taught to recognize, are there people in the schools that have the means to, like you said, notice some of these traits in some of the kids perhaps?
Well, in some ways that's a tricky question. Okay. The easiest answer is yes, right? Okay. In my experience, the schools have personnel that, part of the scope of their duties is to be that resource. And if and when that shows up, to intervene right in a way that student gets help, their family gets help, and that they get plugged into outside resources for a sustained level of help. The other thing there, right, is anybody that's on staff or faculty at a school also falls under a mandated reporter category,
Okay.
which means if this does become evident or clear, they're actually duty bound, right, to make a call and file a report and to make sure that those outside resources are aware so that there can be an appropriate intervention for that student.
Okay. So you mentioned two things, if a person, whether it's a teen, whether it's an adult, you mentioned two words that, are noticeable character traits. You said isolation and
Hopelessness.
hopelessness.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are some things that maybe, teachers should be looking out, or parents should be looking out, or, noticing a change in their student, their child. That's what you would sort of tell them what to do, and not, again, sometimes it's just, he's just acting that way, or it's just a phase they're going through type deal.
Well, again, I think the easy answer is yes. A follow-up question?
Well, yeah. Well, I was just curious because basically what Tom's saying is, or asking, symptoms. What do you see if you start seeing certain traits or symptoms and seeing that, and what would they be? And then when do you take action, or how? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Good question.
Yeah. Well,
Sometimes.
You guys are asking questions that maybe require a format longer than we have today.
I understand.
Yeah. Right. So this seems counterintuitive, but sometimes when someone starts to feel isolated, what they do secondarily is withdrawal, right? Which we would all objectively recognize, well, that's not helpful when you're feeling isolated. But when someone really starts to withdraw, that can be an indicator. A change in behavior, especially a change, and this is all tricky and nuanced. But when you see a shift from typical behavior into what we might think is more high risk behavior, that can be an indicator. But as the three of us sit here, I'd venture to guess at a time we were all teenage boys, and something that can also be characteristic in adolescence, certainly of teenage boys, to make a generalization, is that you see they start engaging in riskier behavior, maybe behavior where they could get injured. I have a teenage son, for example, who one of the big late spring snowstorms last year, I come outside and he's on the roof with his skis strapped on, ready to ski off the roof into a big pile of snow. And not that I would look at that example as an indication, that something was wrong. But certainly, a shift to more risk-taking behavior.
Okay.
An obvious sign, right? And this is certainly a precursor, is if someone starts to engage in self-injurious behavior. So they start cutting, or, start engaging in substance use. Those can be indicators. Some of the other, what they call telltale signs, is if someone starts giving away their belongings, especially meaningful belongings, that this is something to pay attention to. But when I say it's all tricky, the other thing is, sometimes when someone takes their own life, it's also totally out of the blue, sort of a snap impulse decision, without any of the typical, red flags. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's not a single prescribed formula or equation that you're looking for that predicts it.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's a lot of information. And again, if anyone is thinking about it, you got to reach out. You've got to get some help for yourself or the person that, even if you don't think it's important or it's not going to matter or it's not going to happen, if it's important to you, so to speak, seek some answers, seek a counselor, get someone, get them to see someone perhaps.
That's
I think
right.
we would say. All right. In addition to being a counselor, you also oversee the CAP program, the Civil Air Patrol program over at Merritt Academy. Tell us about that. And I think that's a really good way of helping kids with mental health, because I know it's a very strict, regimented class, right?
That's right. Yeah. So on December 1st, listeners, you and historians from the Ute Pass Historical Society, you can do the math on this one. So December 1st, 1941, by an act of Congress, the the Civil Air Patrol was established. And of course, there wasn't an Air Force in 1941, so it was part of the Army Air Corps. When I say you can do the math, of course, 6 days later on December 7th, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, which saw the United States enter World War II. And so during the war, the Civil Air Patrol, they served two main functions, really. One, they flew exhaustive patrols in civilian aircraft along our seaboards. One of my favorite stories, so now, and I should be clear on this, Civil Air Patrol is a non-combative part of the United States Air Force's Total Force Initiative. But during the war, the Civil Air Patrol is credited with the sinking of two U-boats off the eastern seaboard. Torpedoes dropped from Piper Cubs, if you can imagine. Anyways, they flew exhaustive patrols and then also became the major funnel for funneling the nation's aviation talent into the war effort. The war ends, a couple years go by, the United States Air Force is established, and thereafter they're reorganized and fall under the Department of the Air Force. So the Civil Air Patrol is the civilian auxiliary to the United States Air Force. And one of their main missions is their cadet program. And so, Tom, like you said, it is pretty regimented in that the whole program's designed and follows and happens under the banner of Air Force culture. Inclusion, like participation in Civil Air Patrol cadet program, does not obligate one to military service. It's a program that's really heavily focused on leadership. In fact, in many ways, it's a cadet-run program. That's part of the idea behind the program. I was talking about some of the emphasis of the Civil Air Patrol cadet program, with the main one, being leadership, and that it's the way it's intended to run is that it's a cadet-run program. So every cadet program requires an appropriate number of senior staff that oversee it. But really, in their weekly squadron meetings, it's senior cadets who are running the program. And so independent of what a student wants to do post-high school, anyone that goes through that program will have really gone a long way to having some leadership skills developed for them. Cadets who are interested in military service post-high school, there are some advantages for having gone through the program. Again, this is another topic area I could talk about at length, but in a general sense, that's...
we are going to ask you to come back. So
okay, yeah, follow up.
Definitely. So you have young men and women participating, and what is the age for the Civil Air Patrol's CAP program, excuse me?
Sure. Typically, the age range is 12 to 18 for cadets. Of course, as an organization, the Air Force Civil Air Patrol starts at 12, and there are people many years my senior that participate in Civil Air Patrol. There are units that are called senior units that don't have a cadet program component to it at all. They tend to be really mission oriented, and so that's just adults that are participating, and typically they're really emergency services leaning. So they'll have, again, adults who are trained in ground operations. They'll have air crews trained in air-based search and rescue operations. And so they don't have a focus or emphasis on the cadet program side of things at all. They're just really a ground and air search and rescue force.
Interesting. All right. So we go from professional counselor to the CAP program. Now, coffee shop owner, solid grounds. How does that fit into the equation of all this? Does it mean you get free coffee for life?
Well, I suppose as long as I'm a coffee roaster and coffee shop owner. So, if there are any other therapists listening, they would maybe agree you can't be a good therapist if you don't have an appreciation for a good cup of coffee. And so in Woodland Park, for close to 3 years, there was a coffee shop, Righteous Grounds. And part of their claim to fame is that they roast all their own artisan coffees in-house. And as it happens, that coffee shop is 3 blocks down from my office. So when I'd have an hour break or something between appointments, I found it was a lovely three-block stroll down to that coffee shop to sit and have a good cup of coffee and just some time to myself for a bit. And the folks who had originally opened that shop are from South Carolina. And so a little over a year and a half ago, as I would say it, right, they felt the pull to move home to South Carolina. And they didn't list the coffee shop for sale, but they talked to a couple folks who they thought might be interested, and my wife and I were included in that. We'd become regulars there by this point, and as you tend to do when you're really busy, you find ways to make yourself busier. So
of course,
we talked about it for a while and said, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. We'd really like to do that. We certainly don't want to see the coffee shop go away. And so I spent several months with the former shop owner learning the art of roasting coffee so that we could keep that part of the business going. And my wife and I bought the shop. It's now named Solid Grounds, and we really enjoy doing that. It's probably been 6 months ago, but we had a customer in, and I love this. They said, "Man, I really love this place. It's like the community's living room." And without intending to, right, in a simple sentence, they managed to grasp everything that my wife Kim and I really love about it.
Perfect tagline,
Yeah. So I roast coffee, and we pride ourselves on roasting and offering really good coffee. But I think for us, the real enjoyment comes in just that we get to play host in the community's living room.
And I really love how you've integrated the name of the business, Solid Ground, into exactly what you do with the mental health stuff. I mean, because you're getting people back on solid ground,
Never
right?
thought of that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thought. I hadn't thought of that, but I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket.
There you go. Yes. All right, let's get in. Okay, that's a lot of good information. Contact information, where the coffee shop is, and information about your professional services before we get into our lightning round.
Okay. Well, the coffee shop sits at 108 North Park Street here in Woodland Park. I guess we're technically in Divide. So in Woodland Park, it's a little sort of half block off 24, which most people call Main Street, even though there's actually a Main Street in Woodland Park. My practice is in the Woodland Professional Building. The best point of contact there would probably be my practice website, which is just jasonledlie.com. Was there another question in there?
No, we got the addresses. We got your place there. Now we got the lightning round, my fun time. Okay. Movie of choice, Big Lebowski or Star Wars?
Which Star Wars? We're going to upset some folks if we delve into that one too much.
Just pick one. Pick one. You're a Star Wars person.
I cut my teeth on the original Star Wars movie from the late 70s, and it stood up for decades, so I think I'd have to go with Star Wars.
Adventure choice, horses or hiking boots?
Oh, horses.
Okay. Relax, reset, coffee shop or a mountain trail?
Mountain trail or the hot springs.
There you go. All right, holiday fun, ugly sweater or Santa hat?
Ugly sweater.
Okay. Playful twist on this one, a therapy obstacle course, balance beam or a dodgeball station?
Oh, dodgeball. Yeah. If you, so I know we're running out of time.
No.
Big fan of experiential work, and like you want to see people's true colors come out, right? Get them engaged in a game of dodgeball.
That's true.
All right.
Yeah.
Brings to mind the movie too. Yes. So if you haven't seen Dodgeball the movie, go check it out.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty humorous.
Surely we're due for a sequel.
There you go.
Really.
All right.
Save us, Ben Stiller.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Across our community, mental health concerns are rising and cannot be ignored. Stress, anxiety, depression, and trauma affect people of all ages, impacting families, schools, and workplaces. By speaking openly, supporting one another, and investing in resources, we can ensure that mental wellness is valued as much as physical health. Strong minds build strong futures and strong communities. Jason, thanks for joining us. And please remember, Jason, he reminds us that caring for our mental health is about finding balance, resilience, and rest. And Jason, thank you. Charlie, you had anything else to add with Jason?
No, Jason, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate your everything you're doing, all of it. I mean, it's just wonderful, and you're right. There's a whole lot more to explore with you, so I hope you would come back to see us.
Please do.
Sure. And could I maybe just wrap with a close-up point?
Sure, yeah.
So I'll see if I can do this composed.
Okay.
Apologies. For my own cousin taking his own life.
Okay.
So yeah, timely topic for today's podcast.
All right.
He was 2 years post retirement from the Marine Corps, enlisted at 18, retired captain. And this I would say is a fair example of one of the instances where it's just out of the blue. His wife had gone next door to help the neighbor with something quickly and came home to find that he'd taken his own life. The veteran population is another population I work with.
Okay.
I shouldn't say it's rare that I see them in my private practice, but they're not the bulk of my practice. I also work with a veteran service organization, Project Sanctuary.
Okay.
They do 5-day therapeutic retreats for vets and their families. So if you're a veteran listening and think that could be helpful to you and your family, check out Project Sanctuary. But all that to say, really, I think the point I wanted to wrap with is if you find yourself in that, that place, especially right this holiday season, reach out to somebody.
Find someone. Talk about it. Talk about it.
Yeah.
No, and I encourage everybody to. I mean, if I'm sure you're open to it too, they could call you as well for something, guidance or.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to help or be that resource. But it really the important takeaway is reach out to any of those resources. So
For sure.
Yeah.
Reach out to Teller Time, and from Teller Time, we can get you in touch with any of those resources or Jason too. So again, thank you for your time, Jason.